Hey guys, welcome back to In the Beat, where we talk about all things beat making, and today we're talking about how to fatten up that kick. You know what? I'm actually going to put on headphones today. Nerd alert. I know. All right, first things first. If you want to have a banging kick, you got to make sure that your kick is loud enough in the mix. So to check that, I like to just have a compressor on the master. And all we're looking for here is for the kick to be the first thing that is activating the compressor so that we know we're working with the kick at a good level and it's driving the whole mix. Okay, that'll work for now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bypass that. So while you can make a good kick sound out of pretty much any other sound, it's a lot more efficient for us to start with a signal that covers a wider range of the frequency spectrum. So if our kick is lacking a little bit of punch, like this one is, what we can do is try to just layer another transient sound underneath with some more low-end information. And there are a few ways that I like to do this. So the first and probably most simple way to do it is to add another kick underneath the kick that we've got right now. So all I'm looking for here is just to add a kick that has a little bit more oomph to it. Maybe this one here. It's a lot more beefy already, so let's see what it sounds like adding that underneath. Let's see what it sounds like if we just choke the transient of the kick more to match the original. So that's one strategy that we could use. And another one that I like to do is just to duplicate the kick that we've got now and call this -12, because what we're going to do is bring the kick down an octave. So it's the same kick, just down an octave, and there's going to be a lot more low-end information just because of the fact that it's an octave lower. So let's see how this sounds when we blend the two together. What I like about this method is that it retains sort of the spectral character of the original kick, but it also just gives us that low end oomph that we're looking for. So here's it before. So that helps a lot. Now, another quick tip for you if you do blend kicks together like this is to just play around with the sample start time of one of the samples to change the phase relationship between the two kicks. So let me show you how much of a difference that makes when you make those changes. So they all have slightly different characters about them. So just play around with the sample start time and see if you can find a phase relationship that is working for you. Now, another way that you could do it is to add a short bass note in the key of the song that triggers at the same time as your kick to give it that low end oomph. So let me show you. I'm gonna pull up a simple synth such as Ableton's operator, but you can use any synth that you like. And I'm gonna copy by holding Alt and dragging the clip down to our synth here. Let's call this sub. Now, obviously we don't want it to sound like that. So the first thing we're gonna do is change the attack, decay, sustain, and release envelope to make it shorter. So let's bring the sustain all the way down to 0, or excuse me, -infinity, not 0. And we're gonna bring the decay and the release to a little bit shorter so it sounds more like a transient. And obviously we don't want it to be that high pitched, so I just double clicked the clip and I'm gonna press Command A to highlight every single one of our kicks, and I'm gonna hold Shift and hit the down arrow to go down an octave. Now that's even too high as well, so what I'm gonna do is go another octave down, Shift down. Now, depending on what the key of your song is, you can adjust this. So if we were in B flat, for example, you could go down another 2. And just sort of tune your kick to the bass note of the song. So let's hear this in context with the other kick, without. And here's with. So that's a really clean way that you can fatten up your kick. And of course, you can use a combination of all these. I do that all the time. So I might just leave this sub in here and also leave our pitch down kick as well. I think the real key here is to just think in terms of opposites. So if you need more weight, layer in a lower end sound underneath. And then if your kick is a bit woofy and needs more knock, just layer in sort of a mid-range sound. You can even get creative with it by adding in not even kick sounds, but like a rim shot, for example, and that will work as well. Remember, it's not about how it sounds alone, but how it sounds together. Aww. The next thing that we should think about is compressing the dynamic range of our kicks. So I'm gonna pull open just a limiter here. When you reduce the highest level of the sound and then you raise the lowest level, our ears perceive that as a denser sound, and that's exactly what we're after. So let's use a limiter for that purpose. I'm gonna solo the kick here. Apply some gain reduction. It's starting to get a bit more punchy, so now let's listen to this in context. Since we are applying a bit of gain reduction, you can actually increase the makeup gain or raise the out ceiling and match the level of the kick as it was before it's hitting the limiter. One very key bonus to applying compression, or limiting in this case, to our kick is that it has this way of gluing together different sounds to make it sound like more of a cohesive unit. So that's just another thing to keep in mind here. Now, the final pillar of my fattening trifecta is to use saturation or soft clipping to add harmonics so that it occupies a wider range of the frequency spectrum, which is crucial to making our kick sound fat. So let's add some saturation with one of my favorite plugins, which is the Decapitator. I love this particular plugin for a few reasons, because it gives you like several different styles of saturation at the bottom that you can choose from that all have a different character. It also has this auto gain switch so that when you increase the drive, it automatically decreases the output gain to match the input gain, which is really helpful because with some other saturation plugins, you have to do it manually, which is kind of annoying. It also has a dry wet mix knob, which allows you to blend your saturated and original signal and just gives you a bit more control over the way that the kick sounds in the end, which I like. And by the way, if you don't have this plugin, it's totally fine. You can go and snag Saturation Knob by Softtube, which is also a good free option. And you can also check out our video that we did about the best free effects for 2022 if you are looking for a list of must-haves. So the idea here is that we're going to slowly increase the drive until our kick starts to kind of push into this non-linear range and we hear some distortion. Right now I can hear it's applying a lot of crunch to it, which is good, but we just want to pull back on this dry wet to get a better balance. Here's what it sounds like without. With. You can hear that this helps really fatten up the kick that we had initially. Another reason that I like to add this limiter before saturation is because when you apply the gain reduction to the kick, you control how long the kick spends in the non-linear territory of the saturation. So if we get kind of ridiculous here and just bring the limiter like all the way down, 24 decibels of gain reduction. You can hear the way that the saturation breaks up the kick is a little bit different. It spends a little bit longer at that broken stage rather than just, at the initial part of the transient. So all different ways that you can adjust the character to taste. So from here, we're just at the point where I like to add an EQ and take out some frequencies that, I don't like, or add some frequencies that I want more of. The same drill. Now it's kind of funny going back to what we started with. Compared to this. Just a quick word of caution as well, something that we want to think about when we are applying this type of signal processing to our kick with compression, reducing the gain and then perhaps making it back up. And then with the Decapitator, it's saturation. And then, there's the auto makeup gain switch here, but that might not exist on your saturation. And then we're applying EQ as well, which can have some impacts on the output gain. Just bypass your signal processing. Add it back in again. And we can hear that's a bit louder, so I'm just going to reduce the gain on my EQ at the very end of the chain to more closely resemble the input gain. If we wanted to get a little bit more scientific about this, we could add something like the loudness meter by Julian to the drums bus and check the peaks to see if they're matching what our input was. But I like to just use my ears for that and try to get something closer. It's just something to be aware of, especially, depending on how far along you are in your mix, your kick might actually end up being a lot louder because of the processing that you used on the signal. Now go make some fat kicks and let me know how it went. We'll see you guys in the next video.